am always like, one of the things that they cannot say that this about me is that he did not show up. He doesn't show up.
Oh, you show up.
I show up. I try to show up everywhere. People ask me, "Do you ever sleep?" They said, because you're everywhere. I try to make all the events, and especially the ones with children. I've been fishing with children. I have been playing basketball with children. I have dancing with children. I mean, I want children to hear my story, because I think my story is what helps a child. I hope you not growing up in a home where somebody says you'll never amount to nothing. But if you are, I am proof that something can come out of nothing.
Hey, ladies, gentlemen, non-binaries across the gender spectrum. You're watching Sunken Press, an Alton, Illinois-based news program dedicated to solving the world's problems in our own backyard. I am joined by my co-host, Nicole Gorey, who is a very polarizing character in her own right. She is a comedian, an amazing cook. She is a nurse. She is a single mother, and she has experienced trauma, homelessness, addiction, the works. She has had a very storied life experience, and I believe she won a chili cook-off in this very town.
Oh, I really did. And I put it on my resume.
You deserve to put it on your resume. You make a damn fine chili.
This is Corey Davenport. He is an award-winning investigative journalist, and he's worked for Riverbender, The Telegraph, Jerseyville newspaper, the Calhoun newspaper.
Worked for them all.
Yes.
I even started my own thing called the Sunken Press, which is a homage to Elijah P. Lovejoy, the slain abolitionist who was murdered in 1837 for saying that slavery was bad.
And whose wife was also a ride or die.
She was a ride or die. My wife is also a ride or die. So anyway, they threw his press in the river 3 times, and then the 4th time they killed him. So I like to think about the idea of the sunken press, just laying at the bottom of the river.
And Corey also is the shit posting king, okay? He is. He created a whole group that actually maybe moved to Alton because of his shit posts. That's how powerful his shit posts are. But you can either thank him or hate him for bringing me here. But at the same time, though, you did. You draw people in. You make people care. Even people who don't even live in Alton know about Alton issues.
It's a town worth caring about. I love this place. I think with everything going on in the country and world, I think that local civics are more important now than they've ever been. Like getting involved in local elections, getting involved in your community, getting involved in local nonprofits, volunteering, helping your neighbors, getting to know your neighbors. These are all crucial aspects of the future.
I had grown up everywhere, and Alton was the first town that it seemed like people really cared and connected. And even though every place is a mess, Alton really felt like there's so many people here that want to do good, who want to get involved. Like this is the first community that I've actually been involved in any way over the years.
It's a good community to be involved in. It's rich in history of people doing the same thing. It's rich in people currently doing the same thing. Like some of our biggest feuds in Alton are over a bunch of people just trying to do the right thing, but in each other's ways.
That is very valid, yeah.
And I think we're going to interview a few of those too. Like I know we're going to interview some people dealing with the homelessness crisis. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if they exactly get along. I think they see things from different perspectives, but they each have the same goal of helping out people who are homeless. And homelessness is something that's very important to me. I've never been homeless.
I have been homeless, and so that is why, well, you bring the reporting.
Yes.
I've been questioning what I bring, right? When you asked me to do this, I was like, what do I bring? I was
but it's obvious.
But I do have a perspective, because I have been homeless. I have been an addict. I have been on the streets. I have not known where my meals are going to come from, and I feel like advocating for those people is important. It really is. Like, I've seen a lot of things, so that's I have lived experience. That is what I bring.
Exactly. And I'm just like a Catholic school kid who lived with his wealthy father half the time. And the other half of the time, I lived with my mom in a rat-infested shack in South Roxana, eating like boxed potatoes that were 2 years past their Best By date. So like, I don't have like the same experience you did because I always had that safety net. But I got to explore what it was like to look at like abject poverty and like the situations my mom would be in. Mm. And like she was an addict as well. So it's like, I have a really fundamental understanding of what that looks like, but I don't have the knowledge of what it would be like if there wasn't a way out. And like you do. And like, honestly, me talking to people about issues that have directly affected you in ways that I could never fathom seems incomplete, you know, because it's like, I want to advocate for people. I want to be the right person for the things, but like, I've never been in an experience where I didn't have a safety net.
But you aren't a very empathetic person, and I do think
do my
that,
best.
like, you know, I think that's why you're polarizing, but at the same time, people who know you, Corey, people who actually know you, know how much you care.
I try to support local businesses. I try to go to city council meetings. I try to warn people about bad things and try to do stuff that makes the good things better. I think the mayor might be here, though. I just got a text. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm David Goins, proud mayor of the city of Alton, Illinois.
All right, love that. So you're running for re-election,
Yes, sir.
and I want to know, during your time as mayor, what are some things that you're really proud of? Like some of the things that you've inherited from the city that you've made better, or some of the things that are your own ideas that have made the city a better place?
First thing is I'm proud of being able to turn the finances around. We talk about the numbers, we talk about this, but just to be able to come in and then find out that there was really a struggle to like make payroll. There was a struggle with a lot of different things, and couldn't get our audits done, couldn't do a budget, and to be able to, in 4 years to turn a deficit, into a surplus that's I believe that's huge.
Especially after COVID.
Yeah, and after COVID, especially after COVID, and be able to right the ship in about 2 years. And going into 23, that was our first audit where we actually had a surplus, and then 2024, obviously we had a surplus, and so that was one of the goals coming in is to hire a really good comptroller and to do and do some fiscal responsibility.
That sounds awesome.
The council took over the making sure I guess they didn't trust me that I was just going to go willy nilly with the money, so they put a little thing in where I had to, where it was like all money had to be approved by council, which
right.
I was completely fine with that. It wasn't
transparency.
Like yeah, I would, but anyway, meeting with the department heads, we came up with a ARPA spending plan, and the ARPA spending plan was designed to help improve ourselves first. I always use this analogy about putting the oxygen mask on first before you put the oxygen mask on others, and that's where it was, and so we were able to, with the American Rescue Plan Act money, we were able to first of all take care and repair the Riverview Wall.
That's awesome. I heard you talk about that at the forum. That's a pretty big one. So yeah, that kind of leads into a question I was going to ask about the finances. How does that benefit the average Altonian? Like, they can hear these numbers and be like, I don't know what a deficit turning into a surplus is. Like, how is that directly benefiting the people of Alton?
Well, it puts the city in a better position to serve the people of Alton.
So yeah, you can build Riverview Park.
You can do more things, because along with that, besides just the Riverview Wall, we upgraded every municipal building with brand new HVAC systems. All the municipal buildings, the fire department, both fire stations, police station, public works, and city hall, all have been upgraded with new HVAC systems, which has been huge financially in regards to all the repairs that were being done.
Yeah.
Plus the
bills to keep it. Yeah.
The bills going down. Matter of fact, just throwing it out there, our public works building, it's like we put solar on the public works building.
Incredible.
And that has, one bill was like $0, another bill was like, I think 25 or $75 for a public works building. Are you kidding me?
That's incredible.
And so being able to do that with the with the ARPA money, and then here's what the spending plan. everybody was all excited about the ARPA money because it was like, oh, we can do this, but there were so many restrictions on it. So we paused. We put our plan together, but we decided, hey, let's wait. Let's wait before we spend the money, because when it first came out, the American Rescue Plan Act, when it first came out, it was called the interim. It was the interim, which was, just like when you hire somebody as an interim coach, there's going to be a change.
Yes.
And so they said, since it's interim, just wait, because you had like 4 or 5 years to spend it, because they're gonna open it up. They're gonna expand.
Okay.
And
Which will give more money for the city to use for other projects.
Yes. And so it opened up, and we were able to, buy police vehicles with it. We were able to buy, a street sweeper, a hot box machine that can fix, instead of that, like that coal patch, where the guy's driving with a truck and take a shovel and put that stuff down, and it's real kind of grainy, and then after a while it's just all over the place.
Yeah.
But if you go down State Street and you see those different patches, how smooth and how laid out they are, that's because of a brand new hot box machine
that's
that we
incredible.
purchased with the money, a brand new paint striper, police vehicles. We were able to buy 2 ambulances for the fire department, and a ladder truck, which is huge, because sometimes, minutes can cost lives.
Absolutely.
Because if you're waiting for Blackjack, Missouri to come over with a ladder truck, and you got somebody stranded on the top of a building or something like that, and fire is coming at them.
That's about 20 minutes you got to wait.
Yeah.
20 minutes you don't have.
Yeah, 20 minutes you really don't have. And so with that, and then, like I said, it kept expanding. We used the ARPA money to upgrade the marina, used the ARPA money to Haskell Park. And like I said, it was, all the department heads had a plan. And then we reached out to the alderpersons and said, submit your plan for the ARPA money as well. And so we had a really good
I like
plan.
that. It's very democratic.
Yeah, and then because at first, I was thinking, man, we wish we could do streets. And then all of a sudden, I think back in 2023, I want to say, or 2024, it was right before Alderman Keener left, because he's the one who introduced the resolution to spend $800,000 on streets.
Interesting.
And because it kept on expanding as time progressed. It kept on expanding and kept on kind of expanding the parameters of it, and saying, now you can use it for this, now you can use it for that. And I was thinking, what if we would have just tried to use it at first? We couldn't have done all the things that they actually expanded into doing, because you can turn HVAC system was connected to air quality.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely. So it's making a healthier city.
It's like a snowball effect.
There it is.
Yeah.
One thing I've learned by being a part of I'm a part of 3 different groups of mayors: Southwestern Conference of Mayors, the Illinois Municipal League, which is comprised of mayors up and down the state of Illinois. Southwestern Conference of Mayors is Southwest Illinois,
Right.
and then the Mississippi River Towns and Cities Initiative,
Which is Missouri as well.
Well, this is every mayor that has a city on the Mississippi River,
Oh.
from Louisiana all the way up to Minnesota.
Oh, wow. I've been to a lot of river cities. I have to go north, but I've been to New Orleans, been to Memphis, been all the way down there.
But one thing, when you learn, because nobody can really speak about what it takes to be a mayor except for another mayor, and all mayors will tell you that your first 2 years are like drinking water out of a fire hydrant or a fire hose.
Could imagine.
It is, because there's so much being thrown at you all at once, and it's like there's no manual for it. There's no like how to. It's like you pick up the phone and you call this mayor and say, "Hey, I'm dealing with this situation. I'm dealing with that situation." And so how would you have? I mean,
So you couldn't call Brant Walker and be like, "Hey, Brant, what up? How does this work?"
well,
All right, I'll take that as a no.
That's the kind. You don't. I
Right.
always,
Yeah,
I couldn't
gotcha.
call him. Because he'd use that against me probably. But anyway.
So if you were reelected, what would you like to see the money that's being saved used for in the next, over your next term? Like, what would you like to accomplish before that ends if you're reelected?
The biggest thing is, is infrastructure. Infrastructure. I mean, I got on the radio station this morning and I said, if you had a magic wand, what would you, I said from a magic wand would be to be able to fix every street in Alton.
Good goal.
Surface every street in Alton, every street, side streets, curbing for every street, sidewalks, because this is the thing that gives the city that pop, that attitude that there are people that care about this city, and we care about this city, but with the limited funds that we have, we do what we can, and realistically, when you looked at what we've done in the 4 years in my public works director, we was going through, we kept on coming up with all these different numbers, but finally I said, how many we did here and did there, but when we looked at it in totality with the receipts, we actually fixed 37 streets.
That's
37 streets.
That's pretty good.
And I've talked to people that have said, people that are retired from public works that started public works when I started on the police department. That's how long they've been in public works.
All right.
And they said they have never in all the years they worked at City Hall, our city government, for the city about seeing that many streets done in a 4-year period. And the thing about it is that we started off really slow because we only did like 8 streets the first 2 years because we didn't have no money.
Mm-hmm.
So we really ramped it up. And then on top of that, it's funny that, people, they want to give you credit. And it's like when IDOT came in, and I'm so thankful for IDOT that right when we got in office, IDOT came to us and wanted to do Home Randall Parkway.
Mm-hmm.
And then they wanted to do College Avenue.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't know that just like Broadway, everybody called my office and say, when are you going to fix Broadway? We can't touch Broadway because Broadway is a state road.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
Not know that. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Broadway's a state road.
Yeah, there's a lot of state roads that go through.
College is a state road.
Yep.
Part of Bell Street's a state road.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, but being able to do that, and even because IDOT just did from Alton to Godfrey, did Martin Luther King.
Yep.
So
there was a lot of work going on.
Yeah. So those are then, and then when we had the stormwater sewer separation project that I inherited when I came because somebody said, "Yep, this is about to happen. Your streets are about to be tore up."
Unfunded mandates.
Yeah.
Yep.
Unfunded mandates, and that was one thing was everybody kind of holler about the sale of the sewer plant, but if we still had that sewer plant, that would have been all on us, and there's no way we could have afforded to do that. So selling it to and giving it to Illinois American Water, what I'm saying is that now all the streets that they tore up, they have fixed them.
Yeah, that was a really complicated one. I personally wish it would have went to a public ballot, but at the same time, I understand why the decision was made. It was so expensive.
Yeah. And so, but what was the exciting thing was that they were flexible enough, just like right in front of WBGZ, where
on Market
Street, that was the brick street, and so they called and said, "Hey, Illinois American Water wanted to pave it."
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that.
And I said, absolutely.
Part of the reason
not.
why I love Alton. It's the history.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
We got to put brick back down there. So we went up and down, got the residents and put the bricks back. So
the world's fastest bricklayer is from Alton.
Yes.
Joseph Ragland.
Yes.
Yeah, he did it in East St. Louis, but I forgot how many bricks he laid in a minute, but it was an insane amount
of bricks.
And then the Conley brothers, they built a lot of the streets, and they fought for school integration in the late 40s, and I believe they were chased out of town by racists to Cincinnati. So Oof. Alton's.
Got
I
some
like.
history.
I love the brick streets because it reminds me of like
Yeah.
people who
I
love
live
this
on a
community.
I live on a brick street, so
Ooh, I don't. I used to. I used to live off Court.
I live on a brick street, so yes.
Used to live right across from the Simmons firm, right on that Court Street. It was a pretty. You remember that house?
I do remember.
Oh, it was full of rats. It was crazy. I do not. I don't know how I
Remember when you
managed
put
that.
that blow up pool in the front lawn and had that pool party?
Yeah, I had a pool party right across from the Simmons firm and a very and an inflatable pool. It was pretty bonkers. I don't know if you know this, but I'm kind of eccentric.
You
I
know,
was like, no comment.
I wouldn't have guessed it.
I live kind of strangely. So while you've been mayor, I've liked a lot of things and I've disliked a few things. And I kind of want to talk to you about the things I dislike because I want you to sway me. I want you to sway me a little bit. I think that you see things from all perspectives, and I don't think I'm patient enough to understand how you do it. Like a lot of so out of the three things that I feel like you've been that with, one of them I was wrong, and I will talk to you more about that later. But I feel like situations like the Studio 420 thing that I was, crusading on, and now recently the Kyle Holker thing, I feel like those things are, I think that you see all perspectives in a way that to me almost seems like indecisiveness. And I don't know what goes on in your head about them, but I'm very curious to pick that a little bit and be like,
Okay.
so what keeps you from being like Walker and being like, nah, we don't need that.
Well, just like I said, business licenses are not handled out of my office.
Right, they're the treasurers.
They're the treasurer's
Yes,
office.
correct.
And I don't get, the mayors don't get reports about this. And then you don't really know anything about it until a problem arises.
Right.
And then that's when you begin to jump in and, roll up your sleeves and take a look and see, okay, what's going on? Because initially, and I'll go back to Studio 420, we were doing, long before everything kind of blew up, we were already doing stings.
I saw that in that memo. Yeah.
We were doing stings, and then and there's a process, and I had to figure out, because when it comes to a business license, I had to see where I fit, because I know as a liquor commissioner I could pull licenses or I
Right.
could suspend licenses.
Absolutely.
But I was trying to figure out what you could do with a business license, and so because as far as like, does the mayor have revoking powers of a business license, and is because I know there's a step process that goes in liquor, but it wasn't quite, and so it made not that I was indecisive, but you levy those fines, and then I come to find out doing some research. It's like, well, if you have to pull, you can revoke the license, but I kept on getting these complaints about this and kept on doing these things, kept on finding them.
Right.
So eventually, we found out that there was some other shady activities going on, and and then then the police.
Wasn't there an alligator too?
Allegedly.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it was allegedly a Cayman,
I never
allegedly
heard
named Allie.
I never heard about an alligator, but as far as like, there's a lot, with the covertness that we were doing, everything takes a while. And I
Right.
know from being on the police department, and I always use this analogy to kind of help citizens and everybody understand. Somebody will give a tip about a drug house. And me being on the police department, you go to these community meetings and everything, and people are like, police aren't doing anything. I gave a tip about a drug house X amount of weeks ago and everything, and they aren't doing anything about it. Okay, but we are.
Right. You just can't wear it on your sleeve.
You can't wear it on your sleeve.
In other words, Corey has been impatient.
Yeah.
I'll own that.
and so-
I'm a very impatient
Yeah,
man.
and so it's funny that the same people that complain, it was like maybe 2-3 months later, the big bear truck come rolling down the street, 4 or 5 squad cars, and all of a sudden, we're all jumping out of cars in our raid gear, kicking down the door, dragging people out, and all of a sudden, that drug house is no more.
I mean, I have complicated views on the war on drugs, but I understand what you're saying.
But what I'm saying, I was saying it from a perspective of patience.
Right.
Of patience. And that, and understanding the whole thing about wanting to be fair and fairness and equity, because it's, I think, I may be looked at as indecisive or something like that, but I'm one person that I don't want to get too far over my skis too fast.
I gotcha.
And I don't want to be rash. And so, but there was a lot of talk. There was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that eventually led to, and even, one of my opponents taking credit for it. It looks like all that work was already being done long before he wanted to jump in and say about Studio 420 and everything.
Interesting. Because
we were already working. We were already on it, because I had Christy Baumgartner. She had came to me about Studio 420, about all the vapes and different things that they were taking off of the students. And
my son was.
I was going to say your son.
I was a 17-year-old, and he was in there.
And let me tell you something. And when it finally got closed, for that extended period of time before it eventually got ruled, closed permanently, and it cannot open. He cannot open up another place in Madison County, Illinois.
That's pretty big. All right. You might have just pointed out that I'm an impatient jackass, and I'll own it. I'll own it because I am kind of an impatient jackass.
He cannot open a business in Madison County, Illinois. And that all started with a conversation with the chief.
Jared Ford?
Yes.
I love Jared Ford. And you know what? I just said I loved a cop. That's crazy. I'm usually a very left wing. I don't trust cops, but I like Jared Ford a lot. And that's saying something. That is definitely saying something for me. I think he genuinely cares about the people of Alton. And while I do find a lot of things about the institution of policing to be problematic and deeply rooted in terrible things, I think that Jared Ford has a really good head on his shoulders and a good heart. And I really respect him, and I respect you as well. I think that you guys are very you care about Alton and you genuinely want the best for things. So that leads me to my next thing. I want to hear more about the homelessness, because that seems to be something everybody is yelling about. And full cards on the table, Peter Huff is one of my good friends. I genuinely love Peter. Peter and I have we've worked together on a great many things. Whenever the Owls started, I actually yelled at Brant Walker at a meeting and said, "Why are you against this? What's wrong with you?" Yes. And so I want to know a little more, because of the answers, you had the one that hit me the most. You talked about working with Sacred Spaces of Care, and Megan's awesome, and how you've helped rehome a few people. So go in a little detail about that.
Yeah, Megan came up with this idea of the Sacred Spaces of Care, and she met with me. Mm-hmm. First thing. Everybody thinks they got to meet with me first, but you really don't have to. But I'm so honored that they do. Mm-hmm. And so she came and gave this something that was really on her heart to do, to help. And so then, and she was kind of wanted to partner with the police department. So then Chief Ford, welcomed her with open arms. And then what Chief Ford did was he wrote a community policing grant.
Right.
And this grant, forget how much money it was. It was maybe $400,000. This grant was designed to pay overtime for police officers, and Megan would ride with them or follow them, or they would ride together. And their sole mission was to go out and find homeless people and or those who suffering from mental health challenges. Mm-hmm. That was the sole. That officer was not just out there to arrest anybody. They were out there to help.
Right. But I mean, there is a little bit of a problem with you go out there, and even if you're not out there to arrest somebody,
it's the stigma behind it with the homeless community being afraid of cops. I think
that's the reason why you didn't have the officer by themselves. It was always somebody from Sacred Spaces of Care to know. and and no one, they're not checking warrants. They're not checking anything.
So they're not like searching their stuff, looking for drugs. All right.
Nothing.
All
It's
right.
zero.
If they were to find drugs, my question
They're
would be,
not
would they,
looking for them.
but
They're
if
not
they
even
were
looking for them.
stumbled upon somebody, say in the
That
midst
is
of,
not the reason why they are there.
okay,
Okay. Okay.
love
No.
that. I love
Yeah.
that.
All right. Yeah. You're winning me over on this one.
So what we did was Jared requested, we was able, through, at council and then me putting my signature on it, because let me tell you something, even though council puts whatever they, whatever, still at the end of the day needs my signature.
Yeah. You are the executive.
Yes.
Yes. The executive of the city.
And I mean, I'm not trying to veto stuff, but I vetoed one thing in the whole 4 years.
What was it?
Yeah. Trying to make me hire a building and zoning director when the way it was working was fine.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So anyway.
So what happened was we gave Jared $200,000. The city, the city council and myself, $200,000 of ARPA money. Because one thing ARPA was tied to was homelessness.
Yes.
So that was in the beginning.
Okay.
And this money was to be used at the discretion of the chief of police and the chief of police only. And it was designed to assist Megan in helping people relocate. And I'll give you a perfect example. We had an event up at Killian Park one day, and we were finishing up, and all of a sudden, we see a lady pushing a grocery cart full of luggage.
Okay. Common
And-
sight around Alton.
Yeah. And so what happened is that as soon as we saw this lady, we get on the phone with Megan. We get this lady put in a hotel room,
All right.
which is the discretionary funds that the police is allowed to use, and then put them all on a train and relocated them with family.
Okay. Or do they have housing now though?
Well, the housing, there are some that we have helped with. There are some that we have helped with housing.
Okay.
There are. I wish I knew, because I have all the stats. But if you can go to Sacred Spaces, go to the police department, you can see there's been a number of homeless that have been housed. There have been a number of homeless who have been relocated, reunited with their family. And contrary to popular belief, that someone said that the police department is just going out, finding people and buying them a train ticket and just sending them away. That is not.
I mean,
what
that was
we're doing.
going to
that's
be
what
my
was my
question.
question.
Yeah, I was like,
That is not
so.
what we're
like
doing.
it at
That
the
is not
beginning.
what we're
So
doing.
why weren't they with their families in the first place?
They're
though?
making.
Like,
How do they get to Alton? Who knows? But they make contact with a relative who says, yes, you can send them back to us.
okay.
And then that's when the train ticket or the bus ticket is purchased.
I do have, I used to be homeless, and I do have some criticisms about that, because there was a reason why I wasn't with my family when I was homeless. So I will say, what would be the harm in trying to get them housing and appropriate mental health care locally here?
Is it an
because-
expense issue?
Yes.
It's not an expense issue. It's what they want. So it's their option. It's not like, oh, we got this money, we want to send. No. If they ask, they only go home or back.
Okay. That sounds good.
Would you like to see a larger scale homeless shelter?
Well, let's talk about
the
this.
county shut that down.
Unhoused. Let's be correct.
Yes, sorry, unhoused. I'm sorry. I'm
I
not.
think you could use those interchangeably.
No, you
I
really can't. Okay, so anyway, I got blamed. Well, I didn't get blamed for the second one, but I definitely got blamed for the first one I went through. It's like, how can you blame me? I had nothing to do with it. It was actually at the planning commission level, where the planning commission has the authority to say yes or no to a specific zoning thing.
Yeah.
So,
is it because no one wanted it near their house?
Yeah,
A
it
lot
was
of
the-
It's
it,
very
that's-
it's very NIMBYs.
yeah, it was very nimby, not in my backyard. And so both of them in Alton got pretty much shut down by, and it was not have anything. I said, because here's the thing about the planning commission. Planning commission are all wonderful people who volunteer to serve on this commission.
Yes.
They are all appointed by me.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I look trying to influence the planning commission?
That's a good point. So, I mean, I get it. I actually don't blame you for the Salvation Army thing at all, like the booth house thing. No, I do blame the county level more than anything. And
they kind of put the cart before the horse, because they put a lot of things first, and then they went and got all this money, got all this thing, but then get the zoning.
Yeah, that will happen. And so I think that one's more of like a tragedy in general, but I think we're going to see more homelessness. Like, we're seeing an economy crash, and we're going to see a housing bubble. Like, these are things that are almost inevitable. Like, what are we doing to prepare for that?
I drove through Bloomington on my way to see the girls' basketball
Illinois
game. Yes.
Okay.
And I saw an encampment right in the middle of an area where there were businesses, stores, restaurants.
Proximity to services.
And it was a long encampment. Tents. It's like, okay, so obviously Bloomington is relatively bigger than Alton, but sometimes when you get out of your area and see, you find out that, you know what, not to belittle ours or make ours seem smaller, but you can see that there are, it's everywhere.
It's a economic collapse. We're experiencing a crisis,
and so hopefully the new location will help us.
The one that they're planning on putting in Northwest rural Bethalto. I mean, I like that it's central, don't get me wrong, but I think that it lacks proximity to services. Like, the Crisis Food Center is right there in Alton.
And our bus, I mean,
we
don't have the best busing system.
And a lot of that is actually from the former administration. Yeah. If we get a chance to talk to Brand, I definitely want to talk to him about the way he changed MCT at Centerstone, because that's it used to be kind of like a really good hub, and now it's really difficult for unhoused folks to make it to and fro. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about that. Let's move on to something that everybody's been asking me about. Like, literally everyone who knows me and knows how civically engaged I get, they want to know about violence. Violence is something that they find to be extremely troubling right now. Like they believe that things are more violent than they used to be. And I see this every mayoral election. Whenever I was a reporter, everyone's like, oh, it's going to get more violent. Like Dixon said that about Walker. And to me, violent crime is less about the city and more about the climate of things in the world. So
there's a lot. If you say, well, since I've been in office, crime is then you better be ready to take the blame if crime is said.
Exactly.
And so, but to me, it's all relative. The thing that you try to do is try to put all the things in place to try to deter crime. But one thing that I heard, and I never heard this when I was in law enforcement, working in law enforcement. I heard this when I became mayor, and I heard this from a good friend of mine who's a chief of police. He says, you can do all the things, you can put all this in place, you can do all this. He said, but it's hard to police behavior.
Yeah, people are going to do what they're going to do, and like violent crime often reflects national trends. But one of the things I've been hearing from like parents in the school district, as well as people who work at the schools, is that there's like gang affiliated violence. And at first I was like, oh, these are just rumors. These are rumors. Because I was like, are these just scared white people?
Oh yeah, these are scared people.
Scared white people.
There's no gang. Look, we tackle gangs in the 90s head on, and we eradicated it.
Yeah,
Boom.
I will say there's no.
I didn't figure there was. I didn't figure there was gangs.
Claim things for clout that have no connections to actual gangs.
I had an opportunity to serve on this committee about helping children. I can't remember, but I'm actually in a book, and which I have in my office, which was put together by all of these mental health and social health experts, and somehow or another, they asked me if I wouldn't want to be a part of this. And I was just thinking to myself, and I was looking at all of these people with all these PhDs and all these different things, and I'm thinking, I don't even belong here. I'm sitting on these Zoom calls like I don't even belong here. But I come to find out that, they were looking at childhood trauma. They were looking at the home. They were looking at so many factors that related to children and their well-being and why they resort to violence, and then trying to come up with answers and program, and I mean different things that can really impact the home. You're talking about food, talking about helping the children make healthy choices, helping parents help their children make healthy choices. And there was
access to health care.
Access to health, and talked about the whole thing about, because one thing I said is like, whatever happens, it's like you get the loaf of bread up near Chicago, and then you get the crumbs the further it goes downstate.
Absolutely. And I do see that a lot.
And so it's like, how can we access what they're accessing down here? I said, because there's just a greater need down here as it is up there. And that was one of the things that we because we were all on these different focus groups, and they were talking and all of these brainiac people were just sitting there, and I was like, but I actually had something to offer, because of my work with children throughout my career as a law enforcement officer, and even before, because my first job when I came home from college was working at Madison County Court and Probation Services as a juvenile home detention officer. Before I worked in the Madison County Detention Home, before I became a police officer, which eventually led me to working in the high school and then being a DARE officer. So I've always been connected with youth.
Yeah, and I've heard, just in general, I've heard people who've had you as a DARE officer and people who've encountered you in law enforcement. They have good things to say about you, especially in dealing with mental health crises.
And so looking at the whole, even with the UNICEF program, and I know people that came, and bashed UNICEF program because of different things like that. But we were just looking at the totality of the program, how it is designed to help. And we're working with the SIU School of Medicine to really put this together, hopefully launch it really, really strong next, if I'm elected, to really begin to put together youth counselors. The biggest trend that's going around is called the violence interrupters.
Okay. What does that look like?
And the violence interrupters is you're taking people from lived experiences, who've been to prison, who have been through the system, who have turned their lives around, and they are ready to come back. I mean, that's a big trend across the country, is the violence interrupters, and that's one of the things that we're looking at. And
so a holistic outlook for violence prevention, prevent it before it even happens.
Because there's some black men that's working at the Alton High School right now who are people who have been in the system, but they are there to help. They're there in little security roles, hall monitors, different things like that. They are there to help.
I like that a lot, actually. I was not expecting that. I was expecting something like more policing, more survent, and it's like, no, it's more like a holistic view on interrupting youth violence.
When we went to high school events, myself included, and we set up a video where kids can, and we ask questions. What if you had a magic wand? What 3 things would you like to see happen in Alton? Or what does it take to be for a child to be happy, healthy, and feel safe? And we compiled all these answers, and then we have this one lady who's been going around and just interviewing all these kids in middle school and high school, and compiling all of this data to really help launch this child-friendly city initiative, which is would be the first in this area. They have it in Houston. Houston is a child-friendly city.
Okay.
And so we're working and within the child friendly city thing is, there's the violence interrupters, there's all the other, like you said, holistic approaches.
Yeah, this is seriously needed in this community.
Yes.
Like,
So
this is exactly what I wanted to hear somebody say, and I'm like, I'm shocked someone's saying it. Like, I'm like, what? This is how you do it. Like, this is genuinely how you do it. So, okay, that's impressive. That's a good one. Nicole, did you have anything to add to the violence?
I did. So on the subject of violence, I know that the Madison County's decision not to go forward with charges about the Roe Watts stuff was kind of controversial. And I know that you supported them not pressing charges. And I guess my question is, if there was a heterosexual couple, do you think, because they alluded that it was domestic violence related?
Okay, so let me say this, and I said this to a lot of people that came at me. I said that was the high road answer, because if that individual had been charged and the state's attorney decided to charge that individual, I would have said the same thing. I would have said, I support the decision of the state's attorney's office. Now, here's the thing. Okay, so when you support not the charge, where you have a whole nother group of people that were mad. Okay, so if I support to charge, well, it just shifts. There's another group of people that are going to be mad. So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Absolutely.
But if you take, but you support the decision, because as a law enforcement officer, you understand that all you do is investigate and you present the facts of the case, and the case then is in the hands of the state's attorney's office.
Do you ever think if more proof comes forward that they will charge him? Because I know that the death has been listed as undetermined still, so they haven't.
If there's more proof, I can't say, because once again, that's out of my purview as the mayor, because I have zero influence on what the state's attorney's office does, because he's an elected official just like I am.
It's true.
He can't come and tell me how to run my
We
city.
should see if he'll come in. We can talk to him about that.
Okay,
So why didn't you charge, Tom?
I just wanted to ask the question, because I don't know. I feel like,
because listen, Roe Decker had nothing to do with his choice of living, how he lived his life. I love that man because, number one, when I was pastor the church and his sister I was her pastor, he would come and always take part of service. I would go to J.C. Penney, he'd always help me, hook me up with clothes, discounts, different things like that. And I preached his eulogy. I did. They asked me to do his, of all the people, they asked me to do his eulogy. Why would I then turn around, to try to harm this family whom I'm real close to, connected to? But when you ask for a statement, okay, so here's the thing. If it's the 2-word phrase, no comment, you're still going to get some backlash.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm so curious whenever somebody says no comment. I'm like, well, what do you mean?
So you have to make a
sometimes question the fact that
like I said,
if it was a woman who had died that night, and a white woman, in a DV situation, I think that maybe there would be charges pressed. And
that's a state's attorney's question.
I know.
I
do agree with you, actually.
Just get your input on that.
Well, I guess that brings me to another question. Like, Alton has been listed as one of the best gayborhoods by Out in STL. It's a magazine that caters to LGBTQ crowd.
Never know that.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
Really? You should follow Out in STL.
Most charming city in Illinois by HGTV.
Yeah, so we got a lot of accolades, but we have a very large LGBTQ community, and the current administration federally has said quite a few things that are downright threatening, especially to the T aspect of that community. And I know a lot of trans folk in Alton, an inordinate amount of trans folk in Alton, actually. It's trans folk are less than 1% of the people. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I know a lot of trans people. And I'm curious to see like how you view Alton's status as a diverse city, because like again, they're under attack. We have a lot of immigrant business owners that are concerned about their future. Like legal permanent residents. I mean, we saw that doesn't actually matter all the time either. So
well, let me look at it. This come from a black man before there was all of this.
exactly, that was the other thing I was going to add.
My people were the most mistreated, mistreated people ever, and we still are.
In Alton, especially, like we had James Earl Ray.
I'm just saying, just overall. I mean, I still get talked to like I'm trash because I'm a black man.
That disgusts me that people would do that.
I know that there are people that said things to me that they would have never said to a white mayor.
Oh, that's disgusting.
So, with that said, coming from that perspective, I understand. But the only thing I don't really that I'm just speaking from a black community, not be personally, but from the black community is a lot of people do get offended in the black community when they try to compare what they're going through, the LGBTQ community, what we went through as a black people.
And there's a lot of intersectionality there. Like
there is.
Yeah, it does intersect.
But I mean,
because I know a lot of black queer
folks. You don't have the KKK burning crosses in their yards.
I mean, we do have the Proud Boys that were actually recently in Fast Eddie's, and they would.
But
they're pretty equal opportunity.
I mean, and not to say there haven't been some tragedies that happened to people in the LGBTQ community, but nothing on the level of what happened to my ancestors.
I mean.
Oh, but that's not. Yeah, I don't think anyone. To my knowledge, anyone.
Let me get back to.
Yeah. So how do you want to keep diversity in Alton? Like like respectful and
we hold these truths to be simply that all people are created equal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I still stand by that. And whatever person's sexual preference or whatever has no bearing on how I view a person. Now, in other words, we all have our own beliefs.
Right.
But my beliefs will never interfere with whether somebody deserves to have a job or deserve to be treated fairly.
Right. And you are a supporter of Alton's Pride event as well, correct?
I've gone to Pride events.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And like, I think Alton has a really wonderful showing of that. But like a lot of times I'll talk to people.
And I worked for BJC as a security officer before I became mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And they have one of the largest Pride Fest.
Oh, it's incredible.
Their diversity, equity, and inclusion, actually, it's obviously being challenged, but they're standing up, with that. And so
that's incredible.
Coming from that background, coming from Christian Judeo concept, and I, like I said, I have my beliefs, but my beliefs will never cause me to mistreat somebody, welcome them with open arms, treat them like a human being, because I understand, regardless of the choices, we are all imperfect people. None of us are perfect, and I will never judge a person, by that. And if they applied for a job or if they wanted, whatever, I believe that it's important to still recognize diversity, equity, and inclusion, regardless of what our government says.
Like, I feel like Alton still has more racism than it does homophobia, which, I mean, that just could be like, but I feel like we've given the world like James Earl Ray, we're the town that killed Lovejoy, we're the town that wouldn't let Scott Bibb go to school. And like I referenced earlier, the Conley brothers ran out of town. We didn't even get integrated schools till the 70s with the corridor plan. And I see echoes of that in my daily life. Like, you're Alton's first black mayor, but Alton is almost 50% black. Like, it's like what, 60-40 or something like that?
No, we're around a little upwards to near 30.
Okay, but there's still a very
Yeah, that's a very
significant
good
population.
That's a
Only
significant
one black mayor so far,
Yeah,
and they still talk to you with disrespect because like that so deeply upsets me. But I guess it brings me to another question. What things are you doing to allow like young black children to look up to you and say, I could be mayor of Alton someday?
I am always at events involving children.
Yes.
I am always like one of the things that they cannot say that this about me is that he did not show up. He doesn't show up.
Oh, you show up.
I show up. I try to show up everywhere. People ask me, "Do you ever sleep?" They said because you're everywhere, and especially the ones with children. I've been fishing with children. I have been playing basketball with children. I have dancing with children. I mean, I want children to hear my story because I think my story is what helps a child. I hope you not growing up in a home where somebody says you'll never amount to nothing. But if you are, I am proof that something can come out of nothing.
I like that. That's a good message for kids. And honestly, I want to see an Alton where like every single person, regardless of the conditions of their birth, has an equal shot.
Yes.
Like that's
Yes.
all anyone should want.
You can be somebody. And it's regardless, I mean, what I'm talking about is, to be the first is an honor, but also you can be the first in anything.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be mayor, but if you want to be mayor, well, then you have, especially as a black child, you have somebody that looks like me that they've never seen before, and so that's, I avail myself to children. One of the things that my heart is for the Alton School District. That's why when all those fights broke out, not this past school year,
I remember
the year
that.
Before,
Yep.
okay,
I was very in tune to that.
I was there.
I know you were.
I was there, standing there, welcoming the kids to school.
And you were also at the anti-violence march that
we
happened.
was at the anti-violence march.
Mm-hmm.
We actually took a church, Enjoy Church,
Mm-hmm.
and we actually had prayer at the school. We had a rally around the flagpole, and then we literally walked the building grounds, the entire building ground, offering prayer for the school after that event had happened.
That's very kind. All right, so I kind of want to go into my last subjects, and I want to put them together, and it's tourism and AltonWorks. Those are the two things that I actually believe they go hand in hand, because one of the reasons I came to Alton was because of how many cool small businesses we had, how trendy things were getting. Like I'm a gentrifying hipster. Let's be real. That's what I do. I don't mean to be. I'm actually anti-gentrification. So how do you simultaneously ensure that people who are already having a hard time in Alton are not affected by the increase in property values, are not affected by these new promises coming in from AltonWorks? I mean, let's be real, waterfront properties, Rex, whatever, Giant City, they're all John Simmons, and the guy's like almost a billionaire if he's not one, because he practically invented the asbestos docket. So our downtown economic corridor is kind of strangled a bit, but on the flip side, we could have a national park. We have the Wedge Innovation Center. Like there's so many things.
There will not be a national park.
Okay, I'm kind of glad to hear that. I mean, I know it's the bad. There's so much baggage with that. So okay,
No, that was shot down by the Department of Interior.
Okay, what about the idea of like a boardwalk area on the riverfront? Because that's something that John Simmons put out there that I'm like, ooh, a boardwalk on the riverfront, that could be a good time. So like what kind of things are we doing for tourism, and how do you feel about AltonWorks' let's call it a stranglehold or the acquisition of our economic corridor on Broadway? Because I think those two things are going to go hand in hand in the future, because we already lost the ghost tours. So, I mean...
And Jacoby.
Well, Jacoby reopened downtown.
They did reopen.
Yeah,
they did
still
reopen
historic,
downtown.
It was a lot of good...
It did reopen. As far as tourism goes, with the regional aspect of how the Alton the Visitors Bureau and Center Hybrid was called,
Great Rivers and Routes.
Expanded into Great Rivers and
Yep.
Routes.
Corey Job's doing a good job.
It became more regional. And regional in regards to everybody is, it's like that old saying, a rising tide raises all ships.
Right.
And to have to work with mayors across this region to really, highlight what we all do or what's in our cities. I have mayors that come to my city to eat and do this and do that, and then I go to other mayor cities, and so we all try to.
Do you have a favorite one?
To support.
What's your favorite city?
What's your favorite city that isn't Alton?
That isn't Alton.
That isn't Alton. That you go to. Mine's Hillsborough, actually.
Yeah. I love Grafton.
Okay, that's a really good answer. It's right up the town. I'm a Hillsborough boy. What about you, Nicole? You keep it regional.
Springfield, though.
Springfield?
I think Springfield honestly does doing a lot. I didn't grow up there, but Springfield's doing a lot lately.
Somebody I think you should have on your podcast is Sarah McGibney.
Yeah, like Sarah's a huge asset to our city.
Yeah. Alton Main Street is
got the Mississippi earth tones.
The earth tones, and we were instrumental. I was instrumental in helping the earth tones get back down to the riverfront instead of on Broadway.
That was awesome. That was a really good call.
And
so you're a big supporter of Main Street for tourism.
Listen, Sarah and I go way back. When Sarah first started on Main Street, who was the police officer that was sent down to help plant flowers with Sarah McGibney? Me.
That's awesome. I've hung out with Sarah quite a bit.
And so with Alton Main Street, and their focus on small business, especially in downtown. Now they support small business all over the town, but their main focus is supporting small businesses downtown and all the wonderful things that they do to the farmers market. Listen, Senator Tammy Duckworth said that Alton Farmers Market is the best farmers market in the state.
Well, she's damn right it is.
Sarah encouraged me a couple of years ago, and I had a booth there, and it was an amazing experience.
It's actually where we spend all our money.
And
it's easy to do.
And to see that people that organization, businesses that actually started there and became brick and mortar here in the city of Alton.
Yes, but that also brings me to another loss we had. Luciana's moved to Godfrey.
Yeah.
And I love Luciana's.
Well, that was one of them got swallowed up by
AltonWorks.
Yeah.
Raised the rent too much.
One of the things that we just did was we got on a bill that's that's in Springfield now, and it's called the River's Edge Redevelopment Zone.
Okay.
Which is designed to help cities that on the river get these tax credits that can help further enhance their riverfront.
Oh, and I do believe we have a very underutilized riverfront for how beautiful it is.
And there's some other things in the works I can't talk about.
Oh, it's okay. I understand how that goes. I've had to do that about this.
It's all connected to the river, and that's something that I have to sit on, And
so,
and in regards to AltonWorks,
yes, because that's a big concern of mine. Because I'm a pretty against what's going on, but I mean, again, I'm a very open-minded guy. Like I said, I thought you were indecisive, and now I learned I'm a jackass.
There's a lot of criticisms to be made there.
Huge criticisms,
especially not hiring local people.
Yeah, there's not enough Alton people on the AltonWorks crew.
Yeah,
and I don't like that because, like, Altonians, we know what we need,
and it's hard for me to comment about that aspect.
That's fair
as a city, but all I know is that once again, you walk into things that have already
happened.
Yep. So you just try to find your place in it, and when there's something that is like, we don't, personally, well, gosh. I guess
you got to be careful. Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, I would try to limit the amount of things an entity could own in a city, but I don't know how popular that would be.
And
with all the slumlords and whatnot.
And then again, you have to look at all the There's zoning. I mean, there's so many
There's
different.
yeah,
There's so many
lots of
different
hoops.
moving parts. But the one thing that I can say that I'm excited about, you know, is with the Wedge Innovation Center, which I hope can bring a lot of startups, entrepreneurs to our community who can potentially eventually want to move to our city. I'm excited about SIUE being in there.
Yeah.
I'm always excited about progress. I'm always excited about potential.
Right.
But as my grandmother used to always say, time will tell.
Exactly. I do want to have an addendum to that last question. So this is something that's like a personal like peeve of mine, right? I don't understand why Alton's not the Salem, Massachusetts of the Midwest with all of our ghosts, all of our history, the creepiness of Alton. Like, I don't get why we haven't like created like such a push for Halloween to be like Alton's a national destination. We have the oldest Halloween parade in the country. We have so many hauntings. We have ghost tours out the wazoo. Like,
And
we're
we have-
just a creepy little
and
town.
we have some, our haunted tours.
Yeah, well, not at Mineral Springs anymore, thanks AltonWorks.
Mm-hmm.
But overall,
They stopped that.
they did stop that. But overall, like,
But,
what
the
are we
haunted
doing to
bus
bring
tours,
people?
I mean, one of the things I believe that Great Rivers Routes does a great job in
They do.
promoting that. I mean, I like I said, and here's the thing: I'm on the other end of that.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'm on the other end of that. I mean, I hear the other end.
The don't bring people here. It's too
No.
crowded.
No, I hear the other end of from people who say they hate the fact that Alton is known as a haunted town.
Really?
What?
What is their reasoning?
Why do they hate it? It's great. I mean,
They
most of
think
it's
it-
made up anyway.
They think it's a, like I said. So you know what? See, people don't understand. You get it from both sides.
Oh man, there's people out there. They're like, no ghosts.
Yes.
We made up most of the ghosts. I mean,
Yeah.
what are we if not a river town trying to grift tourists at the end of the day?
I don't
I
know.
understand, but there's enough.
There's definitely
I
some
think
ghosts.
There's enough history here that we can intertwine the ghost stuff with
I mean, a lot of our
history.
history is horrifying. Like, we gave the world James Earl Ray, Phyllis Schlafly. I mean,
But
come
we
on
gave,
now.
we gave a lot. We gave a lot of positive things too, And just like with the 888, with the 6668 or whatever that movie that came out, it's on Netflix. It's about the black women who were in
Okay.
the army,
Yeah.
who were the ones that were tasked with that daunting task of going through all the mail,
Yeah.
and they were basically set up a failure.
Uh-huh.
But they actually turned it around and did. It's a great
Yeah.
movie. Kerry Washington is
Okay.
the lead on that. It's a Tyler Perry movie. Well, when we put, one of the things that we found out when we put up our Black History display in City Hall that we've been doing the last 3 years, that one of the characters in that movie is from Alton.
That's incredible. Yeah, no, like that doesn't surprise me one bit. Like, we have a lot of really cool characters, but also the guy who
Yeah.
dropped the
Yeah.
bomb on
Yeah.
or Nagasaki was trained in Alton.
But have you ever went to the Vintage Voices?
Once or twice. I do believe the person who runs it kind of hates me right now, though.
Oh well,
Yeah.
But you learn a lot.
You're gonna hear that a lot on this
learn
podcast.
a lot of great history that's connected. That
I
that's-
do know Lacey at the library, and she does.
Lacey is wonderful.
She's such an asset to this community. I want her to come down here, but I'm a little irreverent, and I have to pay much respect to the library.
Yeah.
Hayner's such a wonderful system we have in this city,
Yes.
and Lacey is such an indispensable resource. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've surprised me tonight, Mayor Goins. You've genuinely you've surpassed my expectations, and I'm surprised. You really painted a picture of Alton that I was unaware of, and usually things don't catch me off guard about Alton.
Well, your voice. You're the voice.
I don't like where this is going already.
I think it's going to be a compliment.
I know, that's why I'm scared.
Yeah, it's about to be a compliment.
I hope it's backhanded though.
No, it's not backhanded.
Damn it.
It's like
He doesn't seem like a backhanded
It's not-
compliment
no, he's
person.
not. It's
That's
a
why I'm
backhand
scared.
compliment.
All
I
right,
mean,
continue.
it is a voice that is much appreciated and much needed.
But it's also like I'm an impatient
and
jackass.
yes, but like I said, one of the people that's in my life who is a life coach.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we talked about therapy, we talked about life coach. She has one motto when she talks to people, and she says 3 words: seek to understand. So I always want to seek to understand, and then I want to bring the understanding. And so that's why, you don't shy away from conversations, because you give people an opportunity. From both sides. You can help me understand. I can help you understand.
I feel like we've both done that in the time that you've been mayor. Like, I feel like I've
and that it's, if I'm fortunate to be reelected, that when you don't like something, I will expect to hear from you.
Oh, you will definitely hear from me every single time. All right. Well, I mean, I think that should do it, honestly. I mean, that was pretty fun. I enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks for being our inaugural guest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I enjoyed the conversation.
Yes.